guys, Sarah here, coming to you fresh out of the shower with wet hair today. I know it's been a long time since I posted a Morph video for you guys, but I'm going to do it today. The reason it's been a long time since I did any Morph ID videos is because I wanted to get some video editing software that my old computer could handle that would also bring you guys the product that I wanted to bring you while also not breaking my bank. So this is going to be the first video using that software, so bear with me if it's a little choppy right now. We're working on it. I'm going to be focusing more on getting the actual pictures up on the screen for you guys so you can see them without me having to like pick up the book and like shove it in your face like I normally do. So like I said, bear with me. We're working on it. I'm working on it. I'm the only one working on it, so I will do my best. Just bear with me. Okay, so today we're actually going to be talking about the Halo corn snake along with the green blotched corn snake. I'm going to put up photos on the screen for you right now, hopefully if it's working, of the green blotched and or Halo, and maybe pictures of them side by side so you can tell the difference. So Halo is something that I actually started working with in my very first clutch of corn snakes, sort of inadvertently, and through my breeding trials have found out that Halo and Green Blotched are either the same exact thing, only different like phenotypes of the same thing, or they're the same thing and it has to do with whether it's heterozygous or homozygous. So for those of you who don't really understand genetics very much, I will like help you out here. So if you have a gene mutation that is inherited from one parent and not both, it's called a heterozygous gene mutation. So that means it only came from one parent. If you have a gene mutation that came from both parents and the snake has it on both sides of their DNA, like from both parents, then that is homozygous. It basically just, you might hear like in the corn snake community, oh, it's het for amel. That's short for heterozygous, and that just means that the amel came from one parent, but not both. And you might also see something like homozygous tessera or homozygous mask, and that usually means, we don't normally say homozygous something unless it's a dominant mutation, which tessera and mask are both dominant. Mask is kind of an incomplete dominant, but you might see super mask or super tessera, and that means the same thing. It means that it's homozygous. So through my breeding trials over the years, I started with a Halo that I produced on accident. His parents were a caramel motley and a random amelanistic. They were from my very first clutch. Those parents were like the first two snakes that I ever bred together. And there were two snows that came out of that clutch. I kept one of them. I didn't keep the other one. And we started noticing that there was a weird difference. About a year later, I saw the people again that I had sold the other snow to. And the reason that I picked that snow to keep versus the one that I sold is because the one that I kept always ate better and had a better personality. It was much less like feisty. So I sold the feistier one that wasn't eating quite as well. I mean, obviously he was eating well enough, but that was just not one that I wanted to keep in my collection. And so about a year later, they came back and they showed the snake to me. I think they were purchasing another snake or rodents or something at the time. And he was a normal looking snow, just like your regular old, kind of pinkish saddles on a white background snow. And mine that I had kept had like these bright yellow saddle borders, and it was kind of like that's weird, I wonder what that is. And then we moved on with our lives. And then a couple years later, I bred a completely unrelated gold dust motley to a completely unrelated snow. And I knew that he was het anery based on other breedings that I'd done with him. And she was sold to me as a xanthic, so I thought that she was caramel, but she didn't have any yellow on her at all. And I thought, well, maybe she'll be het caramel. Maybe that's what they thought. She wasn't het caramel or homozygous caramel. She just was a regular old snow. She ended up being het for motley, so that was nice. And I kept a few snows from that clutch as well. there were multiple different snows. I think there were like 2 snow motleys and like 3 or 4 other snows. But I only kept, I think, 1 snow and 1 snow motley. I know that I kept a snow motley, but I can't remember for sure on the snow. I didn't keep them forever though. I sold most of them off, and I am still in touch with a lot of people that I sold those babies to as well. And one of the girls specifically talked to me about her snow and how she was very happy that her snow did not get that yellow. And of course, the snow motley that I ended up keeping was very, very yellow, got very yellow borders, and they were like polar opposites. They were completely opposite of each other as far as the way they look. The one that I kept, she was a snow motley, but it was sort of a banded motley, and she had like very frosted white saddles, a white ground color, and then like yellow banding. And then the snow that I sold to this other girl just had no yellow at all. And so obviously there was a difference there as well. And I thought that maybe it had something to do with caramel. So I kept an eye out and I looked at some things that other people were doing, and I came across Jessica Kimball of Cornbread Reptiles. I will post the link for her information down below if you want to check her out. Her animals are awesome, very healthy. I don't think that she really does a whole lot of corn snake breeding anymore, but I do highly recommend her if if I don't have something that you're looking for, but she does. I highly recommend her stuff. She started producing halos sort of out of the blue as well, and so I was wondering, like, have you produced any like butters with your halo to halo? She ended up having, on accident, 2 snakes that had the halo like gene or whatever, but they were both very subtle. So she bred an A-male to a blizzard. The A-male, you could see little tiny flecks of yellow here and there, and the blizzard, again, you could also see tiny flecks of yellow like where the banding would be, or when I say banding I mean the borders, where the borders would be. And but she didn't produce any butters between those 2. They were just A-males and snows mostly. And so I ended up getting a couple of those snows, and actually one of the snows was green blotched and the other one was halo. So these are things that I've used to compile what this could be. So 2 halos produced some green blotched and some halos, and then I can only conclude at this point, if I look back at my records, that it's possible or probable that the halo that I was producing, the 2 separate times that I produced halo on accident, it probably came from the caramel side, since I had visual A-males, when I bred my caramel motley to an A-male, the A-male had no additional yellow, and when I bred my gold dust motley to a snow and the snow had no additional yellow, that yellow must have come from the caramel side. But we concluded that it isn't like a het caramel that's producing this visual that we're seeing, and I think that this is also pretty evident by all of the salmon snows and coral snows that we see out there that have this yellow border and the yellow blotches. If you think about all of the corals and all of the salmons that have, I've seen some salmon snows that are also green blotch snows, and they are wild looking. And I've also seen a lot of coral snows that have the yellow borders as well, and they often intertwine. You'll see all of this yellow coming out in the same family of snakes, whereas there's some lines that just are never yellow like that. So I don't believe that this has to do with caramel, because if it was like a het caramel type of thing, anytime you bred 2 of these very yellow coral snows together, you'd be getting xanthic corals or whatever. You'd be getting obvious caramel offspring, but we're not seeing that. And a lot of people have also asked me if I think it's a hybrid thing, because if you see a snow emery rat snake, they will have the yellow borders like that. And I don't believe that it's a hybrid thing either. I think that it could be. I did read a few comments in forums and things here and there where some of the sort of OG corn snake breeders were purposely bringing in Amoy blood into their corn snake lines to enhance yellow. And so it is possible that that has happened in the past. That's not anything that we can really prove in our lines now. We're not gonna, sit down and break down like all of the genetic code of both species just to find out if some of our corn snakes have Amoy blood or not. So it could be that 20, 30 years ago, they were using those and breeding them in. But if you are going to posit that all of these green blotch and halo corn snakes are Amoy hybrids, then that also means every coral snow that has this trait as well, they all have to be hybrids. So I think it's kind of a slippery slope to assume that, halo has to be a hybrid thing. There are a lot of gene mutations out there that look similar in different species. I mean, we have different species that have a leucistic gene mutation. We have different species that have an anerythristic gene mutation. We have many different species that have a stripe mutation. So to think that maybe many different species could not have also a yellow border sort of gene mutation, I think that it would be kind of hypocritical of us almost to assume that this has to be hybrid, because there's even some milk snake species and some king snake species that have this yellow in the border. So I think that this is just something that is a common, naturally occurring type of thing. And we are happening to just figure it out now. Like, I don't think it's even 100% figured out. My breeding trials, as far as this goes, and I've also spoken to Dave Partington about this, it seems that anytime you breed a green blotched to a regular snow that doesn't have any yellow, you get a mix of you don't get a mix. Anytime you breed a green blotch to a regular snow, you don't get a mix. You just get halo. You get halo babies. And Dave Partington had sent me a few snakes a few years ago. One was a green blotched, and then two of the babies were her adult sons at that point, and they were both halos. And he pretty much said that anytime he bred his green blotched, any of the offspring, like all of the offspring, had at least some additional yellow to them. And I have proven through my breeding trials that anytime I breed a halo to a non-halo, at least half of the babies are halo. But if I breed a halo to a non-halo, I don't get any green blotched babies. If I breed a halo to a green blotched, all of the babies have at least some measurable yellow on them, whether it's halo or green blotched. The only question really now is, like, what do we call this? Do we call it an incomplete dominant mutation, or do we call it a co-dominant mutation? For those who don't know the difference, incomplete dominant is, as I have mentioned before, something like palmetto, where you have a the homozygous version where it has inherited both genes, like the mutation from both parents, is vastly different, or is different from the normal type. And then if you breed that to the normal, you get sort of a mix of in between. So with palmetto, you have a completely white snake, and then obviously you have the normal, and you breed them together, you get sort of a lighter version of the normal looking snake. It's actually more of like a hypomelanistic type, where it's not as dark as a normal, but it's not as light as a palmetto. So that is a good example of an incomplete dominant gene mutation. But the issue that I personally see with calling an incomplete dominant instead of co-dominant is that you don't really have a mix like that. What you have is more similar to a co-dominant mix. So what a co-dominant mix would be is if you we don't have a co-dominant mutation in corn snakes, so it's a little difficult for me to give an example, but I'm going to give an example that a lot of biology teachers will give. If you have a white flower and a red flower, and you breed those flowers together, co-dominant is a flower that has red petals and white petals. If you have a red flower and a white flower and you breed them together, the incomplete dominant would be a pink flower. So if that kind of gives you an idea of the difference. Incomplete dominance, like what we see with palmetto, you breed one extreme to the other extreme, you get a blend of both. Co-dominance, if you breed one extreme to the other extreme, you get something that has like blotches of the colors of each. How I like to personally explain it, and I've explained it this way on my channel before, incomplete dominant is if you had two different colors of water. If you had, say, blue water and red water, and then you mix them together in the same container, you get purple water. So incomplete dominance is like that nice blend. Everything blends together and becomes something that's a different color from the other two. Co-dominance is if you have like water and oil and you pour them into the same container. One of them floats on top of the other. So they're separated even though they're occupying the same space. So that's kind of what I believe that we have in Halo and Green Blotched, as opposed to something like palmetto. So as I mentioned with palmetto, you breed the white snake to the normal colored snake and you get kind of a lighter in between blend color. But if you breed a green blotched to a normal snow, you actually get like a snow that has areas that have that yellow, but then areas that don't. So I'm not really sure. I guess this is sort of one of those things that's open for debate in the community. So if you guys like have any input that you want to give on this, I'm happy and open for it. I've actually posted about all of this on cornsnakes.com. I will put the link down below to the thread that has all of this information in it, down to like the detail. I have been breeding Halo, like I said, for like 10 years, and I did go over some of it in my first book, but it wasn't really proven at all back then. And at this point, especially after this last season's breedings, I'm pretty sure that we've figured it out. The only other trial that I hadn't really personally done, even though it has been done by other people, and I've seen their results, was the green blotched to a halo, and I actually did that breeding this season. And the female laid eggs, the eggs are in the incubator. We won't know for like 6 months if we actually got a statistically give or take 50-50 split of Halo and Green Blotched. I'm hoping that that's the case, but I think with all the evidence that I have up to this point with everything, that we do have enough of that evidence to say that it's very likely a gene mutation, and it is very likely a gene mutation that is co-dominant, or incomplete dominant, if that's what you want. Again, that sort of is going to be up for debate. I haven't seen too many like co-dominant gene mutations elsewhere in like the animal world. I know that it's out there. I just, I think that there's a lot of co-dominance in like ball pythons, but I'm not in the ball python community. I'm in the corn snake community, where we just don't really have experience with co-dominant gene mutations. The other question that I keep getting with green blotched and Halo is like, how can you put it into other things? And I think that I might have mentioned this on my channel before, but it's incredibly difficult to put these mutations in with anything that has melanin. I've seen it in ultramel aneries before, but only when they're really young. So if you get a really, really young ultramel anery, I'll try to throw a picture up on the screen of an ultramel anery I had that had some like, it almost looked like just like a golden, I described it as like an ore, it's like an O-R-E ore. So like, it kind of is like, it's a dark color, but you can kind of see that there's undertones of yellow in there. But once she got older, you couldn't see it anymore. Green blotched though, green blotched is easier than Halo. So I've seen Halo in the ultramel anery like that, and some other like lighter colored hypotypes, specifically sun-kissed. So sun-kissed is a weird one because of the way that it shapes the saddles and all of that. And I've seen green blotched sun-kissed, just like regular old sun-kissed that are green blotched. Again, I'm going to try to throw up some photos for you guys that I have found online of these things. And I've seen Halo Sunkissed that were just like regular old Sunkissed. It's actually easier to see in Sunkissed Motleys, but it's very like faint. It's just like little tiny flecks of color. It's not like the bright yellow bands that you would see. Another hypothesis that we currently have going that I will probably personally never test. Someone else is going to have to do this test and tell me how it goes, is the specter lines. I personally believe, and a few other people that I've talked to have speculated that the specters who have those very famous olive colored saddles are actually green blotched. Because if I've looked back on some of Donovan Winterberg's photos that he took of his specters and banshees and all of those, and the yellow that shows up in those is very akin to what I believe it would look like if you added green blotched to those other morphs. I believe that the olive colored like saddles that were in the original specters were probably green blotched, and you'll see a lot of the specters that maybe just have a little bit of yellow just around the edges of the saddles instead of in the saddles. And I believe that that olive tone is actually probably Halo, but that hasn't been proven, and I don't really know anyone who's specifically working on that. If anybody out there has some specters or some heliconias or anything like that, and you are wanting to do that, I would love to know what you come up with. I would love to know like what pairings you have planned and what you plan to do with that, because like that really interests me, and Spectre is something that really interests me. I've done a video on Spectre in the past. I will link that above as well if you guys want to go see that. I believe that I've made this video quite long enough, just answering the last question about Halo, and that is like what other morphs can it be seen in, and the answer is, so far every single amelanistic morph you can see it in, except for maybe lavender. That's the only one, like anything that has lavender in it. So, opal and stuff like that. And that's another breeding trial. If anybody would like to do that breeding trial, I would love to know if you are breeding Halo into lavender lines, opal especially. I'd love to know how that goes. But I've seen it in Blizzard. I've seen it in regular Halos. I've seen it in cinder peppermints. I've seen it in peppermints. I've seen it in pretty much any like amel morph that doesn't have lavender in it. And I've also seen it, like I said, in Sunkissed, and I believe I've seen it in Ghosts as far as like the Spectre line goes. So anything's possible. I also think, by the way, I've seen it in Ultramel Aneries. I've seen green blotched Ultramel Aneries. One reason that I want to tell you guys I haven't been posting as much is because I am in the middle of writing my third book. I have been just dumping my energy into that because that's a big important thing to me, and it's something a lot of people have also asked about. So I'm not going to go over in this video what that is about right now, but it's going to be a little different from the last books that I did. If you're interested in the books, or if you're interested in getting a mask that has my logo snake on it, or a shirt that has my logo snake on it, you can go to my website, which is not Facebook. Don't go to Facebook. Just don't go there. sarahsnakeshop.com. And I have all those posted there. I will also be posting updates on there when I have reptiles available, probably only snakes because that's all that I breed, and any other thing that I will have available will also be available on the website. I probably won't be posting as much on Facebook as far as available things. I will be posting updates on Facebook though. So since Facebook doesn't allow sales of animals, I have moved all of my animal sales to my website. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope that this was interesting or intriguing, or at least like taught you something you didn't know. If you're interested in more corn snake morph content, please subscribe and like the video, and share it if you thought it was interesting. I know it was long. I am long-winded. That's just a part of who I am. I cannot make short, concise things. I have a TikTok, and it's very difficult for me to get things under a minute, as you can imagine. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Leave a comment down below with anything that you would like to see in the future, and I will try to make that for you guys.